In 2006, New Mexico became one of the first states in the nation to mandate DNA collection for people arrested for certain crimes. Now, back then, prosecutors like Susana Martinez favored the measure because it could have helped catch killers of the victims like Katie Sepich. Now, in 2011, the state strengthened the measure, requiring DNA samples to be collected from all felony arrestees. This week, the Supreme Court, in a split decision along some unusual lines we'll talk about in a minute, upheld a similar measure from Maryland. So joining us to talk about it, former Democratic State Senator from Albuquerque, Dede Feldman, and also my neighbor. Nice to have you back. From New Mexico Watchdog, one of our panel regulars, Rob Nicoleski, is here. Former New Mexico House Republican Whip Daniel Foley returns this week, and editor of New Mexico Law Review, Sophie Martin, is here. Sophie, the court essentially, kind of distill this down here, see if you agree with this. They essentially said, look, a DNA sample is the bloody same as a fingerprint and should be treated the same under the Fourth Amendment. Your thought on that?
That is more or less what the court came down on. I think it's important to note, though, that this was a 5-4 split. It was an unusual split on the court in that the groups that we usually expect to see, the conservative side of the court, the liberal side of the court, they didn't match up the way we would normally expect. So it's not like you had this vast majority saying, yeah, DNA just like fingerprints. It was quite close. The minority opinion, which was written by Justice Scalia, and backed up by the liberal side of the court. Right. You know, he was quite fierce, and I think had a really provocative and I found pretty compelling argument that they're not the same thing, that there's a whole lot more information about you that's contained in your DNA. And I would say in many ways, we're finding that the DNA is who you are. Right. And your fingerprint really isn't that. And so that there are meaningful differences.
Sure.
But yeah, that's where we are. We've got the court saying, hey, you know what? DNA, progress moves forward. This is where we think we're at.
Sure. Rob, good to see you. Justice Kennedy wrote partly, he said, the collection of this information, quote, is no different than matching an arrestee's face to a wanted poster of a previously unidentified suspect, or matching tattoos to a known gang member to reveal a criminal affiliation, or matching the arrestee's fingerprints to those recovered from a crime scene. A lot of ins and outs there on the legal stuff there, but that feels awfully broad for a lot of folks at this point.
Right, and it's awfully broad for Justice Scalia, who was rather blistering in his dissent. Right. His concern is, and I think he probably reflects the concerns of a lot of us have, which is in the 21st century, are you ever going to be able to get off the grid? And his concern is that even though the Maryland law and the New Mexico law only takes the cheek swab after a alleged serious offense, Justice Scalia says he can clearly see a day where I get pulled over for speeding and the cop takes a cheek swab.
And to this, in New Mexico, serious offense in New Mexico under the current version of Katie's law includes graffiti and shoplifting of more than $500. So I think for most of us, those are two crimes that we're like, well, you know, those are not desirable crimes, but that's not murder one, murder two, something we would necessarily think of as a serious offense.
I'm so glad you brought that in. Good to see you, Senator Feldman, because I have to say out loud, of course, in these moments, I am a board member of the ACLU of New Mexico, and ACLU is very much opposed to this for various reasons. But touch on what Sophie just said. See, that's interesting there. It's not, we have been fed this is about very serious crimes, but it could be about a whole lot of other things as well.
Well, those are felonies.
What
you
had
mentioned.
Yes.
Initially, when the New Mexico legislature passed the law in 2006, it was restricted to serious crimes, murder, kidnapping, and rape. And then in 2011, Vernon Asbill came back, sponsored a bill, and it included all felonies. So we did have a compromise, however, and that compromise would mean that you know, they would take it upon booking. They would swab you upon booking, but it would remain there without use until there was probable cause or until the defendant failed to appear, and then it would be examined. And that's another question. Does DNA testing involve full genome sequencing? And we're told now that it does not.
This
but
version,
it could.
Right. It
Yeah.
That's right. Dan, talk about, go back to where you were in the legislature here when that original law passed, my understanding, as well as Senator Feldman. Talk about that compromise, but then also take us forward to today, too, and if you think this is going to be a viable option from now on for all states, in all situations, in all cases. And this is where the problem's going to be for some folks.
Well, I think a couple things. One is, it was interesting, just like the relationship today with the dissenting opinions. It was that way in the legislature. You had some of the hardcore conservatives and the most liberal Democrats sitting at the table saying, "Yeah, we agree this is a bad deal." I just don't think the level of trust for the government exists. And I think that whenever the answer is trust the government, most people are like, "Yeah, okay." I think the problem is that the compromise was, all right, they'll get it from you because you may run, you may get out, you may bond out before anything can happen, but if you're never tried, if it goes away, then so does your DNA sample. Versus now, it's there.
Right.
And so, there's two sides of the story. Side one is if you've been a victim of a crime or know someone who's been a victim of a crime or has been someone that's been wrongfully convicted, you're going to run out and say, if this would have gotten me out of jail or prevent it, maybe that's a good thing. And I think there's some real questions about that. Where I see this moving that is very problematic is simultaneous to Katie's law has been the discussion both in the state and nationally about utilizing DNA for insurances and being able to say, can we find out if a young child has a propensity for a mental illness or another illness, can we rate them this way? And I think it's a slippery slope now that the feds have said, oh, your DNA is just like your fingerprint. I think I can see insurance carriers come along saying, oh, well, just like your fingerprint, let's get it. And so I think we have to be very careful. And I think Justice Scalia was right. I mean, this is a very, we can't make this decision in a vacuum. This deal with Katie's law has ramifications far outside of what we're talking
Dan
about.
brought up something really important, if I can just jump in, about innocent convicts, people who've been convicted but who did not commit the crime. Here in New Mexico, as in pretty much every state, maybe every state across the country, we have an Innocence and Justice Project, which is an incredible program that seeks to exonerate people who have been unjustly convicted. They struggle against an incredible shortage of funds, as is true across the country, and what they really battle for is to find money to get DNA testing for prisoners who here are sitting, life in prison, incredibly long terms in prison, in other states sitting on death row. Somehow, the state can afford to DNA test people who have been arrested but not convicted, but cannot afford or will not test prisoners who are sitting in jail who could be exonerated. They have not made that a priority. It's a much smaller population. It's a population that's sitting there ready to be swabbed, in many cases dying to be swabbed, asking to be swabbed. Second part, even once you have been exonerated, you've been tested, your DNA does not match the crime scene DNA, you still have to fight to be let out.
That's right.
They don't just open the doors. You have to go back to court. Prosecutors, DAs often fight to keep you in.
But without the DNA evidence, they'd be sitting there now.
Here's the thing that's interesting. They don't need DNA evidence from some guy who got picked up on a DWI who matches the perpetrator. They just need to show they're not the person. Our justice system doesn't work that way. I don't have to say it wasn't me, it was that guy. I don't have to show up with the guy who did it. I just have to, I don't even actually have to, it's just not me.
Yeah.
Reasonable doubt.
It's just not me.
Yeah.
And so the fact that as a legal community, our justice system isn't willing to start by saying, let's start with the basic justice for the people who are already behind bars who don't deserve to be there. So I think it's garbage to say this is about finding innocence. That is so not true, because we could start with people who are behind bars.
I just don't think it's a good idea to give the government more power. I am constantly leery of anything that comes out that we say, yeah, you got some valid questions, but trust the government to do the right thing. Government, by its nature, I don't think always does the right thing.
Rob,
But if you're Mrs. Sepich, then you're taking a look at a situation where this murder possibly could have been avoided.
That's right.
Yes.
And that's just like the 5-4 split in the court. There's this split among people in the United States, all across the country. And I would just point out to people, if you want to rent a good movie, watch Gattaca. And it goes back to what Dan was talking about, how where an insurance company or the state comes in and says, oh, you're a high risk, and it is the slippery slope.
Just
20
one
seconds, go
thing.
ahead, please, absolutely.
It passed overwhelmingly in the New Mexico legislature. So,
But you couldn't
in my-
oppose it, Senator. You know that. That's one of those bills
Well,
that when it came before you, do
there
you want
were
to be the
people
guy
that
who's
did.
against it?
It had 3 people opposed it in the Senate, 38 people voted for it, and 6 people, all Democrats, opposed it in the House, and 61 people voted for
This
it.
is long from over, as
Yeah.
they say. In a moment, the makers and subject of Justice Denied, a film screening this week in Albuquerque that's subject, military sexual trauma against male victims. We'll return with this group right after that.